Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Raw Reaction series, our show in which we react to the latest Arsenal news, get your thoughts and feelings. And this is the first of a new kind of series that I'm going to try and commit to every single day to give you guys the latest Arsenal transfer insight. Obviously, we'll be covering all the insight that's reported. If we hear anything over at TGT, we're going to tell you and get kind of the thoughts and feelings as well of you guys in the chat. This isn't a new thing in the world of Arsenal content creation. Transfer dailies have happened in lots of places, but we hope that we can provide something different, something new, and involve you guys in the chat a lot more. What has made TGT the channel that it is definitely through audience interaction, getting your thoughts and feelings around different topics. And transfers is obviously something that a lot of Arsenal fans love to talk about. And I'm going to try and commit to this every single day, 8 a.m., all throughout and leading up to the start of the transfer window, during the transfer window, during the Euros, and obviously into the final days of the window. There might be times I'm on holiday, which will be the only change of the schedule, but we are going to try to commit to this as much as possible. So make sure you subscribe to the channel every morning, 8 a.m. UK time, to get the latest Arsenal transfer information, talking about it, getting your thoughts in the live chat, make it your morning routine, drop a like on the video, and let's kick off with our first topic, which is an interesting one. Because Bernd Leno, Bernd Leno is obviously a keeper that has divided opinion amongst the Arsenal fan base. A lot of people would have rather have seen this guy leave than they had seen Emi Martinez leave last summer, and for seemingly quite good reason, considering the fact that Martinez has gone on to have such an excellent season. I think he has the highest save percentage of any keeper in the Premier League. And meanwhile, Leno is throwing the ball into his own net. Now, I know that's not obviously a little bit of an exaggeration, of course, based on the whole season, and Leno has pulled off some really good saves for us throughout his time at the club. But a lot of people are feeling a little bit kind of frustrated, is probably the best and most polite way of putting it, in the sense that, according to kind of the latest information that's seeping through some of the networks, is that Leno has effectively told Arsenal that he is open to leave in the summer. He wants to move on from the club, and that leaves Arsenal in a situation where we might not have a first goalkeeper or a second goalkeeper, because if you remember, we brought Ryan in on loan. We've got Runnison here, but that is all that we would have if Leno was to go. And that would mean that Arsenal's transfer ideals and what we do in the summer has to change hugely. Now, something that we're going to do with these shows, and we want to get as many of your thoughts in the chat box as possible throughout these shows, is that we want to obviously make sure and understand if you guys want to see him go, if you want to see him go for a certain amount of money, I want to know how much you think we can get for him. So be throwing your thoughts and ideas around this in the chat, and we're going to go through as many of them as feasibly possible. From my perspective, if Leno wants to leave, that is absolutely fine. I feel like we can get a better goalkeeper than Bernd Leno, and that's not a discredit to him as a keeper. He's pulled off some excellent saves. Just the other day in the Villarreal game, he kept us in the tie by making that save from Gerard Moreno, who is a very good striker. And he managed to keep us in the game and in the tie, making that save. And eventually, of course, we got a goal back, and now we go to the Emirates, where our 1-goal win can take us through to the next round if we win to nothing. But he has made some key errors. Everton obviously comes to mind. We talk about how his wrists aren't always that strong. We saw it in the Liverpool game with that goal from Diogo Jota. So I feel like we can get a better keeper. I think you see from Ryan's performance against Newcastle, even though it was against Newcastle and they offered very little, he feels like he commands his box better. The defence seems a little bit more solid, a little bit more confident when Ryan's on the pitch. And Leno, for me, doesn't instill that same confidence in his team as what Matt Ryan is or other players are. So let's get your thoughts and feelings specifically about Leno. And of course, there are some interesting links to who we could replace him with. Aditya says, Bernd is a decent keeper. He can generate funds, also can be good change for both for the team and for himself. Superman says, so we gave up Martinez over this guy who now wants to leave. I want him gone over Martinez, and we would have got more for him then. Omar says, Leno can go. See you later. Aditya reckons that Ryan will be signed up, and so we won't need to worry about necessarily getting 2 keepers in. Good morning, Jashar. Good to have you in the chat, mate. Aditya reckons that we will get about 15 to 20 million pounds for Bernd Leno. Indanil says, if Leno wants to leave, I'm all for it. I think his confidence is shot and he does feel the pressure coming from the fans. It is sad because he was magnificent for the first 18 months here. Ansgar says, I think goalkeeper is a problem. We don't have a single homegrown goalkeeper in the first team. Replacing one of the 3 with a homegrown makes sense. Maybe a certain Polish goalkeeper. Neptune says, are we just going to forget about his performance last season? Come on, he is a world-class keeper going through a rough patch. Blade Gunner says Leno is a good keeper, but we can definitely do better. But we need to get other positions sorted before we get a new keeper in. Which is all kind of the balanced points of view and the comments that we've come to expect from you guys in the chat box. But the possible replacements for Bernd Leno are not plenty. We see maybe kind of a Magnon from Lille, who of course is supposedly out of contract at the end of the season. Could he be someone to go for? We've seen links with other players in Germany before, maybe the likes of a Premier League goalkeeper. Would anyone be interested in, say, Nick Pope, for example, that would add that homegrown quality? But of all the people that we are being linked to as a possible replacement, the player that we are being linked to is this man, who, of course, we know all too well about in Wojciech Szczesny. Now, Szczesny obviously left a fair few years ago for a very meagre fee to Juventus during Arsene Wenger's tenure. He was a player that came through the youth ranks. He's won cups with us. And he actually had a very good affinity with the fan base. The fan base were very much on this guy. If you are more of the younger generation and you weren't really around to watch Szczesny play, which makes me feel really old, but there was all the things about smoking in the showers, the videos, taking the mick out of Spurs. This guy is an Arsenal fan through and through. And before we get on to his goalkeeping quality, that means something to me. I like the idea of more Arsenal-associated people in the club. Matt Ryan is an Arsenal fan. Szczesny, we know, loves the club and supposedly wants to rejoin and would be open to that. The reason why this is even possible is that Gianluigi Donnarumma, the Italian goalkeeper at AC Milan, is also out of contract this summer, and Juventus look a very likely destination for the teenage goalkeeper, and hence why Szczesny's place is up for grabs, because Juventus are going to probably see Gianluigi Buffon move on, but they've got Loic Perrin at the club, an Italian keeper that spent this season on loan at Genoa, and so therefore that space is going to become very competitive, and I don't think Szczesny's going to want to play second fiddle, especially to a teenager, and so he's going to be open to a move, and the latest information is that he wants a return to Arsenal. Now, to give you my kind of thoughts on this before I open up the floor, I'm actually open to this happening, in my own opinion. He's a tall goalkeeper. He commands his box well. He's matured a lot since his time at Arsenal. He's improved as a goalkeeper. He's a better distributor than what I see Leno as. I think this is a fine option, a fine idea to go out and sign a player that is associated with the club, knows the club, loves the club, gets what the club is about and wants and demands more from his team, has worked at a really top club in Juventus and become their #1 keeper over the time that he has been there. And it is only the fact that Donnarumma is available on a free transfer that you're seeing Juventus really push to sign a new keeper. We are going to do a transfer, a tactical breakdown on Szczesny. I'm looking at getting some expert insight on him from his time in Italy to provide you guys with a dedicated specific video on him, hopefully within the next week or so. So that'll be out on the channel in the week. So make sure you're subbed to get that with all the expert statistics, insight, and the discussion, of course. But let's get what you guys are saying in the chat box in regards to Wojciech Szczesny. Let's scroll down, and I've already seen some people that aren't necessarily too keen on the idea of Wojciech Szczesny. Omar says, Szczesny, nah, not for me. AB says, Nato from Barca might want to come. He is good. I think Szczesny is better than him, personally. Ansgar says, having 3 goalkeeper and not a single homegrown keeper is really shocking. Szczesny makes so much sense. As for Leno, if he leaves, Dortmund might be wanting to have a look at him. Summit says that we should look to sign him back. Jashar says Szczesny all day, plus he'd be classed as a homegrown player, and he is now a winner. Indanil says, Tom, so we need a really objective over here. Mikel Arteta wants a specific kind of goalkeeper. If Wojciech Szczesny could be that, then let's do it. If he's a fan, but it's not my only criteria. And I'm not saying that being a fan of the club instantly means that you should be signed. It is just something that I look at as a very big bonus on top of what is already an interesting profile of keeper. Daniel Roberts says, I want Freddie Woodman or Carl Darlow, obviously both homegrown players. Freddie Woodman's at Newcastle, as is Carl Darlow. Freddie Woodman spent this season on loan at Swansea, I believe. And we were linked to him actually in January as maybe someone to bring in as improved and played in England youth teams, I think. So he's someone that would be a very interesting one. AB says, should we do a swap deal with Villa for Emi Martinez? Forever an Arsenal fan says Szczesny wouldn't be a bad option, would add a much-needed homegrown player to our squad. So that's Szczesny. An interesting profile of player. In regards to how much he would cost, as Classy Football says there, he has 2 seasons, I believe, left on his current deal with Juventus, which means that he is going to command a fee. We sold him for a pretty meager fee at the time. When he left Arsenal, he was sold for around 12 to 15 million pounds, not that much. And his current contract runs out in 2024, in fact. So there's actually 3 years left on his current deal. So it's going to cost, I would think, around £20 million figure to probably get in Wojciech Szczesny. Maybe the fact that the pandemic's hit, maybe the fact that they are looking to bring in Donnarumma may lower the price a bit, but I don't think they're going to want to sell him for anything as the same amount or lower than what we sold him for, and they'll want to get as much money from him as feasible possible. Although saying that, Juventus don't sell amazingly well, so maybe there is the opportunity to get it. Lewis Kiriakou says, Love was to come back, was at the away game years ago. We won 4-0. He did nothing all game, but came to the fans, told us to shush so we could start a chant of "We love you, Arsenal, we do." And that itself, like it really does kind of boost that for me. Really does boost that affinity, I suppose, with the player. Micah says, why don't we get Donnarumma? He's leaving for free. Because he's going to Juventus or another club in that situation, Micah. The thing is that Arsenal are not in a situation anymore where they can really attract players when they're in competition with clubs like Juventus. Arsenal need to work on raising their profile, getting themselves back into the Champions League, improving how they are perceived as a club in Europe so we can go out. We wasted so many years of basically not signing players when players would have come to Arsenal as a big club and we didn't do it. And now we're paying for that. And we need to raise our profile again to a certain level. Now, the final story that we're going to talk about today is about this man. Joe Willock has spent the season on loan at Newcastle since January, I should say, and done very well. He scored a fair few goals, some really important goals, some goals that Arsenal fans have enjoyed hugely. He scored, obviously, against Spurs. He scored against Liverpool. And we have to make a decision on what we want to do next season with Joe Willock. Now, if you were to ask me what I think Joe's best position is, for me, it's as a number 10 / kind of second striker, playing him as close to striker in a central area as possible. I don't think he works as an 8. I don't think he has the defensive capabilities necessarily to track back as what he should. And when he is in those positions, I'm not sure if he adds too much. But in the final third, he can be dangerous. He can score goals. He can find passes. He loves getting into the box and being proactive. But the thing is that Arsenal for so long have sold really poorly. We've been in a situation where we could have sold players and we haven't. We've sold players too cheaply, or we've done what we did in January and get to a stage where we have to basically pay players to leave the club because we have no space for them. They're not wanted and they're not going to be good enough for the team. We need to stop putting ourselves into these positions. And when the stock of a player that is surplus to requirements at Arsenal, and I hate to say, and it's not a detriment to the player, but for me, I don't see Willock as a long-term Arsenal option. And I think that his ceiling is below what we need of the ceiling of players that should be at the club and looking to become top-class, world-class players. And that's what we need to get back to where we are. Is Joe Willock going to be the number 10 / second striker that takes us back into the top 4? I don't see it. Some people might say he's not meant to be that guy. He's meant to be a depth option. He's meant to give you kind of squad, just more options. And I understand that point of view. But what I would say is when you've got the opportunity to get around £20 million, which is what's being touted, then I think you should go for it. Now, the latest information on this is that Arsenal and Arteta are still unsure about this situation. They've been really impressed by what Joe Willock has done at Newcastle, and they don't know whether or not they're going to cash in. We don't know whether or not Newcastle are going to stump up enough money for this. Newcastle sometimes go out and spend a ridiculous amount of money on someone like Joe Linton and does nothing, and that might deter them. We know what Mike Ashley is like as an owner, so we don't know if they're going to stump up the money necessary. We know that Bruce likes him. Bruce wants him to stay. I think that they'll come in and they'll try and get him on loan for another season. That's how I think it will go. But Arsenal need to be ruthless. Arsenal need to go into this situation and try and get as much money as feasibly possible for Joe Willock before we let him go. So they're my thoughts. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat box in regards to what you would want to see done with Joe Willock. Summit says, give him another loan. Lathan says, keep Joe. David Blashik says, I would sell. Yannick says, don't bring Joe back. We're not healthy for these players. Jerry says sell. Omar says sell. Aditya says Willock is one of the players who fits Newcastle's system more than he does Arsenal's. Let him go. The more he performs, the more we get. 25 million, in my opinion. Omar said he's not good enough. Micah says, I don't want Szczesny. Move on from him. Benny says, sell Willock. He'd be good, but he's at Newcastle, which is about the standard. Sell, sell, sell. I'm seeing lots of sells. Milan says, Willock doesn't suit a possession-based team. Sell him when his value is high and buy an 8 like Locatelli, who I actually think of as more of a 6, or a Joey Veerman, who I don't know much about. Michael Otto says, if we can get anything near 20 million, definitely sell. Jerry says the whole squad needs to be overhauled. Keep Saka and Martinelli. Suraj says we should sell him. His form would increase his price to around 20 to 25 million pounds. And Ansgar says it depends on who we bring in. I want 2 creative players, a Golovin, an Aouar, Odegaard, Buendia, Fekir, Coutinho, Grealish. Yeah, I think you're living on a cloud 9 there, mate, with some of those suggestions. Omar says Newcastle is his level. I would take the 20 million. Jashar says Willock is not the finished article and has a great ceiling. Surely we should give him a chance next season. I'm just not sure we have the capacity to do that with Joe. If you're watching this on playback, please make sure you leave a comment letting me know about any of the 3 players that we talked about today, what you would do with them, why you would do it with them, if that makes sense. Why you would actually take the decision around those players, of course, and let us know with a like that you've enjoyed the show too. That concludes our first episode 1 of the Raw Reactions Arsenal transfer show, which is going to be with you guys every single day at 8 a.m. Do not miss it. Make sure it becomes part of your morning routine. Make sure you drop a like on the video and subscribe to get all the content. These shows will, of course, feed in to the tactical breakdowns, which are going nowhere. As I said, we've already got some tactical breakdowns lined up. We're going to be doing a show on William Saliba. We're going to be doing a show on Wojciech Szczesny. We're going to be doing a show on Yaremchuk, the Ukrainian striker at Ghent, who has seen some links to Arsenal and a possible kind of budget option as a striker at Arsenal as well. We're going to be doing a show on so many players that we get linked to, giving you the expert insight from people around the world that know their stuff on these players. So, you know, it's not just coming from me taking random guesses. It's going to be coming from people that know the players inside out. We're going to be giving you the statistics that you can't access through Scout. We're going to be giving you some graphics and more, as well as the usual stuff. I'll be on later today at 5 p.m. UK time for the Let's Talk Arsenal show. And of course, tomorrow will be the preview, and Thursday for the game against Villarreal. We'll be here straight after the game to get your thoughts and feelings about how we fared in that game. Really appreciate you tuning in for the first Arsenal transfer show of the period that we're going to be doing, and which is hopefully for a long, long time. I'll see you again very, very soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.